Sheng transformed into an ancient god striding across the lands of the Dragon Country. His head reached the top of the stratosphere more than 50,000 meters above the ground. On both sides of his cheeks were clouds as thick as cotton. Sheng had finally taken that step, successfully breaking through to level 9. His true martial divine flame Dharma form had reached a height of over 50,000 meters, and Sheng sensed that this was not even his limit. I can't continue to gather power anymore. If I continue, the world's momentum and the natural energy of this planet will be drained by me, damaging the planet's foundation. This world will become completely silent, just as Lan Shen said. This small Azure Star can no longer contain me. The cosmic expanse is my future stage. Sheng looked up, his gaze piercing through the atmosphere, directly seeing the vast, boundless starry sky. The sun seemed to hang just above his head. He felt he could reach out and touch it. An indescribable emotion welled up from the bottom of his heart. At this moment, he could deeply feel the sensation of plucking the stars from ancient myths and legends. When one's body became this magnificent apart from the universe itself, there seemed to be nothing left for Sheng to pursue. With my current power, could I shatter a planet with a single punch? The thought suddenly emerged in Sheng's mind, but he quickly shook his head. Probably not. A planet isn't as fragile as an egg. The interior of a planet is far more solid. Moreover, although Sheng was now over 50,000 meters tall, he was still insignificant compared to an entire planet. Sheng smiled self-deprecatingly. To think of shattering planets right after reaching level 9 was pure arrogance. Suddenly, Sheng sensed and heard countless cries for help. "God, save us! Save us!" The young man was stunned. So many calls for help. What was happening? The desperate cries and wails of the people on Azure Star echoed endlessly. Even the martial saints, our nation's guardian deities, have been defeated. Who can possibly save us now? Where is the light? Where is the light? Damn you alien invaders! Gods, please save us! Save us! This scene left Sheng frozen in place. He immediately unleashed his spiritual power. Sheng's spiritual force spread outwards tens of kilometers, hundreds of kilometers, thousands, tens of thousands of kilometers. In an instant, it enveloped the entire Azure Star. His spiritual power was now overwhelmingly strong, having reached level 11. In terms of spiritual power alone, Sheng was a true level 11 powerhouse. On the ruins of a city, the alien Akich held Lin Zhengyue by the head, hovering in the air. He was like a giant speaking to the ants at his feet. He laughed arrogantly. "Ha ha 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 ha! See, these are the guardian gods you worship and rely on." Akich's voice was louder than thunder during a storm shaking the city's sky. Countless people were so terrified by his voice that their faces turned pale, and they either collapsed to the ground in fear or fled in all directions. Akich laughed heartily as the glass from every skyscraper in the city shattered and rained down. He felt a sense of release. No matter how many times he did this, he enjoyed it immensely. He loved this feeling, the process of plundering a planet, watching the natives of a low-level civilization being awed by his immense power. To see the natives of a low-level civilization tremble beneath my great power, their faces filled with fear. It's so much fun, ha ha ha. He continued to laugh mockingly. So weak yet so stubborn, a bunch of insignificant insects. Akich relished this feeling of absolute control, of being high and mighty like a god. He thought to himself, if I weren't in a bet with those other two, I would have had a great time playing with these ants for a whole month. Then Akich's expression turned icy cold as he shouted, "All right, I'll repeat this one last time. Immediately bring all the resources of this planet before me, otherwise I will destroy your entire civilization city by city at a rate of 1 per hour and kill every single one of you." After speaking, Akich stared indifferently at the ordinary citizens below. He knew that thousands of cameras were recording faithfully, transmitting his words to every corner of the world. Now all he had to do was wait patiently. I hope you don't keep me waiting too long. After all, destroying cities is a bit tedious and boring. With those words, Akich mercilessly let go, throwing Lin Zhengyue into the empty space. Her body fell like a leaf from a branch hurtling towards the cold ground. A dull thud echoed as excruciating pain tore through her every muscle, causing her to convulse. But amidst the dizziness and overwhelming physical agony, her mind remained fixed on a single figure. Her bruised, cracked lips moved faintly, uttering a weak and desperate call, "Lord Lu Sheng!" At that moment, the crowd below saw something and looked up at the sky, pointing. "Look! What is that?" The surviving martial saints stared, mouths agape, cold sweat beading on their foreheads. Just then, Akich heard a commotion and cries of shock from below. That is... Oh my God! Akich looked down, his eyes focusing. He saw the citizens who had just been paralyzed with fear now looking up past him, their faces filled with astonishment and disbelief. They were pointing towards him as if they had seen something terrifying. Akich couldn't help but frown, a flicker of doubt rising in his heart. What's going on? Why are they all looking at me? Have they all lost their fear of death? Suddenly, Akich noticed the sky dimming as if a massive shadow was rapidly spreading over his head. It was only then that Akich realized the object of the natives' shocked pointing wasn't him, but something above him. Akich jerked his head up, and in an instant his pupils contracted to pinpricks. His entire body froze. Wait, they're not looking at me, but at what's above me. Reflected in Akich's eyes was an image that would be seared into his memory for eternity. It was a patch of diamond-like white light pressing down directly towards him from high above. This patch of light was tens of thousands of meters up. It wasn't smooth. Its surface was covered with intricate mystical patterns like a fingerprint. Surrounding the patch of white light were 5 massive, unevenly lengthened pillars, giving the whole thing a bizarre and somewhat eerie appearance. What the hell is that? Why are there pillars? This is so strange! Akich was stunned for a second before a horrifying realization hit him. No, what the hell is this? Holy shit, that's a hand. A massive hand. A single one of its fingertips is much larger than my 8,000-meter martial Dao Dharma form. Akich was instantly bewildered, cursing in his mind. This is fucking impossible! But before he could react, the sky-blotting white hand descended and crushed him with a single finger. Akich struggled futilely, overwhelmed with utter disbelief. This power! It's impossible! Who in the world are you? Akich roared, his mouth wide and eyes bulging in helpless fury. I can't even resist! I'm going to die without even knowing who killed me! I hate this! Akich's 8,000-meter martial Dao Dharma form didn't even have time to make another sound before it was directly crushed by the giant white hand. The boundless world's momentum dissipated, turning into countless specks of light that scattered in all directions. At that moment, whether it was the ordinary citizens, the military, the on-site reporters, the dozen rescued martial saints, or everyone around the world watching the live broadcast, they were all dumbfounded. Their expressions were vacant, their minds blank, completely unable to process what had just happened. They couldn't understand how the 8,000-meter-tall alien invader whose ferocious aura had plunged the entire world into an apocalyptic crisis had been swatted out of the sky and crushed by a giant hand in just a few blinks of an eye. The entire process was as simple and casual as a person swatting a pesky mosquito. The heaven-defyingly ferocious invader is dead. Just like that, as casually as swatting a mosquito. What just happened? Could it be that gods truly exist? Yes, it must be. The gods have revealed themselves. Even the Jade Emperor couldn't stand it anymore and came to save us, haha. Everyone's mind was reeling, and they even began to doubt the reality of what they had just witnessed. Am I dreaming? Then the crowd erupted in joyous cheers. He's dead. The invader is dead. Even though they had no idea what had happened, the invader was dead for good. Lin Zhengyue, her body covered in wounds, also looked up. Ah, it's over. So suddenly, who was it that acted? Just then, a figure emerged from the white clouds. An immeasurably huge, divine giant suddenly appeared in everyone's line of sight in the city sky. His body was so colossal that it was impossible to see his full form. Not even half of it was visible. He was of an unknown height, tens of thousands of meters tall, his entire body glowing with a brilliant light as if forged from diamonds. Beside him was an even more enormous three-legged golden crow, exuding a mythical aura. This unfathomably magnificent divine giant shattered their perception of martial arts. Like ordinary people, a sliver of doubt crept into their hearts. Could it be that gods truly exist in this world? Lin Zhengyue murmured. Could it really be a god? But that silhouette, it's so familiar. It's Lu Sheng, Lord Lu Sheng. At that moment, the divine giant began to rapidly shrink. You've suffered, Lu Sheng said, stepping forward to support Lin Zhengyue. My lord, the nearby martial saints couldn't believe their eyes. It really is Lord Lu Sheng. Then the one who just killed the invader was Lord Lu Sheng. You've broken through to level 9. Meanwhile, in the Hua Fu community of Baihei City, in the living room of the Lu family villa. The entire family who had been sitting in front of the TV was in shock. Lu Qinghe pointed at the TV screen, her face full of surprise, and said to Lu Dahai and Zheng Yufen, Dad, Mom, is that my brother? Is our son? That great Lu Dahai and Zheng Yufen stared intently at the TV screen. The handsome, godlike yet incredibly familiar face left them stunned, unable to tell for a moment if this was truly the son they had raised for over 20 years. In a research center, a pharmacist wife who was preparing medicine while watching the screen was also in disbelief. Ah, it's Lu Sheng. The bald old president of the Martial Arts Association was equally shocked. What, it's that young man in the barracks of the Eastern Military Region, a strong young man with tanned skin also stared in astonishment at the large screen. Lu Sheng, it's the god of war. Lu Sheng walked before the crowd and spoke slowly. My apologies, everyone. I'm a little late. I just came out of seclusion. My lord, you jest. Lin Zhengyue and the others said, their faces full of reverence for Lu Sheng. Their minds were in turmoil. A powerhouse that all of us martial saints combined couldn't defeat was crushed by him without him even showing his face. It's too absurd. Akich didn't even know who killed him. Is he even human, killing a peak level 10 master right after reaching level 9? How is that possible? At this moment, Lin Zhengyue couldn't help but worry that her own achievement of becoming a level 9 martial saint was somewhat superficial. Compared to Lu Sheng's level 9, they were not on the same level at all. False level 9. Martial. Saint Martial Dao Dharma form is 1,000 meters tall. Can casually use the world's momentum. Can fly through the sky, move the earth, and part mountains. Can be called a god among men. True level 9. Martial Saint Martial Dao Dharma form is tens of thousands of meters tall. Eyes contain the three-legged golden crow. Possesses a mythical physique. Kills level 10 masters like slaughtering chickens. Lin Zhengyue curiously asked, My lord, if I may be so bold as to ask, how tall is your Dharma form? The young man replied calmly, I don't know. I haven't tried to fully deploy it. The power drawn from the heavens and earth is too great and would destroy the foundation of Azure Star. As for the specifics, I'll have to go to Lan Shen to obtain higher-level resources before I can find out. While Lu Sheng and Lin Zhengyue were talking, a high-ranking general in the military below recognized Lu Sheng. His stunned expression transformed into one of indescribable worship and excitement. His voice trembled as he shouted, God of War, That is our dragon country's god of war. The god of war saved all of our lives. The old generals of the military command were incredibly excited. We old bones have finally witnessed the birth of a legend. What a powerful god of war. That handsome young man. He is the new martial saint of our dragon country, the legendary god of war. That cry was like a bell that awakened everyone from their daze and confusion. In that instant, there were no more individual voices. Tens of thousands of people raised their heads with worshipful eyes, their chests swelling and roared in unison, two words that thundered like lightning in a clear sky: God of War. Amidst the thunderous cheers, Sheng, who had just been hailed as the god of war by tens of thousands of souls, stood stunned like a statue. Few people knew what the god of war actually looked like. Most didn't even know if he was male or female. Previously, when the world's martial saints fought against Akich, many assumed the god of war was among them and had already been defeated and captured. But now they knew the truth. The divine tens of thousands of meters tall giant was Sheng, the legendary god of war. He was the one who had turned the tide and saved them all. At this moment, countless people erupted with uncontrollable excitement. Sheng asked Lin Zhengyue and the others, "Ganlan isn't dead, is she?" "That's right, Ganlan should still be alive." Lin Zhengyue and the others pointed to the black spaceship Akich had left behind not far away. "Akich beat the other martial saints half to death and imprisoned them on that spaceship, but we can't break through its defenses." Sheng's eyes glinted. With a flash, he moved towards the spaceship. "I remember the hatch should be right there," Lin Zhengyue said, pointing to a spot on the underside of the black vessel. Sheng nodded and reached out. His diamond-brilliant Dharma hand quickly emitted a strange ripple of light. This light carried a powerful severing property, slicing red gashes into the surrounding air. Sheng's immense spiritual power penetrated the ship, and the shockwave sent the martial saints behind him staggering back in awe. Very quickly, Sheng had dealt with the spaceship. He dusted off his hands, a slight smirk on his lips as he remarked, "A bit tough, almost like cracking a walnut by hand." Sheng turned to Lin Zhengyue and the others. "Go rescue them. I have other matters to attend to." "Yes, my lord." With that, he looked up at the sky, his eyes narrowing slightly, and then he vanished. "We respectfully see you off, Lord Sheng," Lin Zhengyue and the others said, only straightening from their reverent bows after Sheng was long gone. The clamor from below faded as Sheng ascended rapidly, breaking through layer after layer of the atmosphere. Inside his body, the 650 immortal cells emitted a faint warning. The source of the warning came from the starry sky above his head. Boom! Sheng finally broke through the atmosphere, his entire body launching out of the planet and into the cosmic expanse. He was slightly surprised by his own new capabilities. "So I can already do this. The one behind Akich is probably level 10, level 11 at most. There's no way they're beyond level 11. As he floated outside the atmosphere, Sheng silently calculated. "It's fine. My power has surged so dramatically that even I'm not sure how strong I am right now. There are too many aspects of my strength I haven't tested, too many abilities I haven't had time to experience." Sheng had originally planned to enter a long seclusion after breaking through to level 9, but the crisis on Azure Star had forced him out prematurely. If the mastermind behind Akich is level 11, that would be perfect. Sheng took a deep breath, but no air entered his lungs. It was only then he remembered that there was no air in the vacuum of space. "Breathing is no longer necessary for me. It's just a habit. Habits can be changed just like quitting smoking or drinking. An ordinary person can't live without breathing, but for me, giving it up is like quitting a bad habit." Within his supreme body, the 650 immortal cells had constructed a solar divine domain. In a sense, he had completely transcended the category of a normal human being and had truly entered a new level of existence, a transcendent life form, just as Lan Shen had said. Here I can absorb the cosmic energy of space and fully unleash my Dharma form. Standing in the void, Lu Sheng focused his mind, and a nearly endless torrent of the world's momentum and cosmic energy converged upon him countless times more than what was available on Azure Star. The young man shouted in exhilaration, "Excellent!" Lu Sheng unleashed his martial Dao Dharma form without restraint. His body began to grow at an astonishing rate. 10,000 meters, 20,000 meters, 30,000 meters, 50,000 meters. He quickly surpassed the limit he had on Azure Star, but he was still growing. 70,000 meters, 80,000 meters, 90,000 meters. Finally, he stopped at a height of 100,000 meters. In the vast expanse of space, a colossal, brilliantly glowing giant stood tall, radiating a four-colored aura. Countless stars twinkled around him. His eyes held the three-legged golden crow, and his body was like a diamond. A 100,000-meter-tall martial Dao Dharma form. This was the true state of his all-heavens true martial divine flame, four extremes Dharma form. Now, as Lu Sheng stood before the entirety of Azure Star, he no longer felt so small. My first level 9 divine ability, Heaven and Earth Dharma. Whether this ability looks cool or not is secondary. Its visual impact when used is absolutely stunning. Imagine a palm as large as a planet descending from the sky. What a sight that would be. Lu Sheng was instantly reminded of a scene from a movie he had seen in his past life, comparable to the Buddha's palm that subdued Sun Wukong. Perhaps one day I too can stand on par with gods and Buddhas. Lu Sheng shook his head with a sigh. Come on, you space pirates. You'd better be level 11, otherwise crushing you will just be boring, utterly tasteless. Does a normal person feel a sense of accomplishment from swatting a mosquito? Of course not. That's right. While I'm at it, I should take stock of my gains. And what about the supreme treasure my master gave me? Lu Sheng had not forgotten that hidden within his body was a supreme treasure gifted to him by Yang Yiju, a seed of the material universe. At the same time, on another civilized planet, a dark red world with a stable temperature of over 50 degrees Celsius and gravity 3 times that of Azure Star. There was no green vegetation, only vast expanses of sand dotted with dark red pyramid-like structures that glowed with technological light. Countless dark red-skinned natives were prostrated on the ground, too terrified to even lift their heads. Above them hovered a man. In one hand he held a chicken leg, in the other a glass of wine which he drank from in large gulps. The fat man Zhan Pu kicked a nearby chest. "Is this everything?" The native king, trembling on the ground, replied, "Respected lord, this is all of our royal family's treasure. It's all we could gather. You plunder us once every 10 years, you know this." The moment he finished speaking, a hand clamped around the king's neck, squeezing so hard he coughed up blood in agony. The hand then lifted the native king into the air. Zhan Pu laughed. "Don't lie to me. I hate violence the most, you know." He dropped the native king and looked up at the starry sky, muttering, "Whatever time is almost up. I have to go. If I delay any longer, I might lose the bet to those other two." Just then, a beautiful young woman in exquisite clothes ran over. "Father, are you all right?" The native king roared, "You fool! What are you doing out here? Go back!" The young woman's eyes filled with tears, but at that moment, 2 demonic hands seized her by the waist. Zhan Pu's eyes lit up and he began to drool. "Old man, it seems you were holding out on me. She's a fine piece of goods. She's quite valuable, you know. Say goodbye to this garbage planet, beautiful." With that, a beam of light from a spaceship above moved to Zhan Pu and the princess, pulling them both inside. "Don't, father, save me!" the princess cried in terror. "Give me back my daughter!" The native king roared in helpless fury as the spaceship quickly flew away. Inside, the bound princess sobbed ceaselessly. "Sob, you're too cruel." Pu was finalizing his work when the communicator on his wrist flashed. He glanced at it, his expression turning serious. He immediately answered the call. "Guijian, what's the situation on your end?" A slightly agitated voice came from the communicator. "Everything went smoothly and I'm preparing to return. But we need to make a trip to Akich's location." Pu was taken aback and instinctively asked, "Why? What happened?" The voice from the communicator turned icy. "I don't know. His life signal has vanished, but his ship is still parked where he left it." At the same time, inside the dream space. So this is it. The dream space is the interior of that material seed. The scenery was the same as before. The only difference was that base 1359, the place where his dream had begun, was gone. Everything on that planet had vanished, leaving only fragments. All those things that had once existed had been shattered by his master, and its essence integrated into his own martial path. Sheng couldn't put his complex feelings into words. This place was the cradle of his martial arts journey, and its disappearance left him with a touch of melancholy. However, the Fire Seed Resource Repository still existed, and it was even more powerful now that it no longer needed to maintain those illusory scenes. Deducing martial arts, predicting the future, exploring for resources. This is the true powerful function of the Fire Seed Resource Repository in the dream space. Predicting the future, that's the primordial power of the universe at work. My previous predictions were flawed simply because the amount of primordial power I could mobilize was too little, and the depth of my probing was too shallow, leading to incomplete information. But now he possessed the complete primordial power of this planet. Although it was just 0.00, with countless zeros, 1% of the entire universe's primordial power, the amount Sheng could now command was the authority he had been striving for all along. The primordial power was incredibly useful, but the abilities to explore for resources and predict the future were secondary. Sheng's main focus was on the ability to deduce martial arts. To truly bring the 3 martial paths I simulated on my master's void chessboard into reality, I still need to rely on the primordial power. After all, the Tao discussion on the chessboard was just a game where many details and processes were simplified and omitted. For Sheng to create a level 15 martial art on par with Wang He and Duan Yifeng by himself without the help of primordial power would be a nearly impossible task. Furthermore, in the future, if I want to break through to level 16, 17, 18, or even higher to save this universe, I will also have to rely on the support of the primordial power. Sheng's thoughts were clear. His journey in the dream space was still long and arduous. Before, I was a grandmaster saving a street, then a base, then moving on to the next base. But now I need to save a planet, then a star system, and finally the entire universe. It's not entirely a bad thing. My perfect martial path requires a huge amount of accumulation. By absorbing the entire martial arts civilization of the planet, Sheng's perfect martial path had been condensed and expanded to an unprecedented level. The number of martial arts he now knew was thousands, even tens of thousands of times greater than before. This was the culmination of 10,000 years of a planet's martial arts civilization, which had produced countless strange and bizarre martial skills. There were many that Sheng had not only never seen or heard of, but couldn't even have imagined. And this was just the crystallization of the martial arts civilization on a single planet. What if I expand this scope to an entire universe? I've only just completely absorbed the primordial power of this one planet. I can't even begin to imagine how magnificent and powerful it would be if I expanded this to the whole universe. Sheng took a deep breath, his thoughts calming. If such a day ever came, then Sheng could truly become the very embodiment of the 2 words, martial Tao.